Blog Talk Radio.
Did you have to devise the swashbuckling style of punch fighting that you did because of the short reach?
Yes, that was the big reason. I had to sort of get low and try to come up, as we say, from underneath to get in close on an opponent, because the closer I could get to an opponent, the more damage I could do with the short arms. At long range, I just couldn't jab with the great jabbers, such as Joe Louis. When I fought him in '51, he had 11 inches reach on me and was able to just pop that left in my face and keep me at a distance. I had to sort of crowd and move in on him, and that is why the style was really developed.
Rocky,
heavyweight champion of the world, Rocky Marciano. And the new heavyweight champion of the world, Rocky Marciano. And here he is, ladies and gentlemen, Rocky Marciano. Rocky Marciano, the new heavyweight champion of the world. Rocky. Did you think you were winning?
Well, no, I thought I was just maybe a hair behind. I knew I had to do something.
And you did do something. Did you think you were going to catch up with him?
Well, I was wishing I'd hit him with that left hook or right hand.
Yeah.
He certainly takes a good punch there, Bill.
Yeah, and you did hit him with the right hand, of course.
Yes, I hit him with right hand and left hook.
Did you think he was gone? Did you think he was gone when you nailed him?
Well, I knew it hurt him.
You could feel the punch. You knew it hurt him.
I knew it hurt him.
Well, congratulations, Rocky. You're a great fighter, game boy, and a great credit.
How you doing, everybody? This is the WBC featherweight champion of the world, Mr. Gary Russell Jr., and you can listen to me and tune in on Zutes Boxing Talk.
All righty, welcome to Zutes Boxing Talk, the boxing show where we bring you sweet science straight up with no twists. And how's everybody doing out there this evening, Wednesday, January the 9th, 2019? Scheduled to join us this evening is light heavyweight Charles Foster, featherweight contender Miguel Flores. We'll hear from them a little bit later on. And this is a good weekend to look forward to in the world of sports in general. You got the big football playoffs, if that's your thing, but boxing is back on U.S. television after a lull. All right, we get the holidays and we didn't have much boxing. And this weekend we have some good stuff on Showtime, as well as FS1. And Friday night, January 11th, Showtime kicks it off. Devin Haney, the lightweight, is back in action. He's fighting what appears to be a tough fighter from South Africa, and Ndungini. I don't know much about Ndungini, and other than he has a pretty good record, has fought a lot in South Africa, has something called the WBF title. And Haney's one of those guys that, 20 wins, still a prospect. I think he took a hit a little bit based on what Teofimo Lopez did to Mason Menard compared to what he did. And I think it's unfair to compare anybody to Teofimo Lopez. And to call Teofimo Lopez a prospect still, to me, is silly. Whereas I think Devin Haney still, even though he has a significant amount of fights, could still be put into that prospect mold. Because it's not about the records all the time. It's about where you're at, right? And I think Devin Haney is still at that prospect stage where he's not even close to being the best that he could be, and he is going to have to improve if he wants to be in that top 5 status. Whereas I think Teofimo Lopez is in the top 5 status for sure in the lightweight division. He might even be in the top 2 status. And we're going to have Teofimo on tomorrow in a special version of Zutes Boxing Talk. And Teofimo is scheduled to fight Diego Magdaleno coming up soon. But I like Haney. I don't think it's fair to compare what he does against what Teofimo did against a common opponent. And haven't we learned from the past? I mean, at the highest level, sometimes you can't go by those common opponents. Right? You all know what I'm talking about. I'm not going to get into it. Everybody can name their own, where one fighter did really good against another fighter, but then when he fought the fighter who did better against that fighter, he lost, right? Hagler, Hearns, and Duran. That trio is a great example that we always look to, and whenever I could talk about the Marvelous One, I will. So looking forward to that. Showbox usually does a good job. They usually match their fighters tough, for all of the people out there that say these fighters are padding their record against soft touches. Well, I guess they forget to watch Showbox, because 9 times out of 10, who's ever fighting on Showbox, maybe even a higher percentage, guys are matched tough, right? And then Saturday night, we got a fun card on FS1, where in the main event, you have the super middleweight championship, the IBF version of the super middleweight championship. Jose Ustagai against Caleb Plant. That should be a hell of a fight. That's going to be a good fight. Very good undercard on this broadcast as well. I don't know how many fights we're actually going to get to see. And that's the one thing I love about the ESPN Plus, and I think the DAZN does this too, where they play most of the fights. I mean, ESPN Plus, they play all the fights on the card. You're not going to get that here, but they have a really good quality of an undercard. Brandon Figueroa takes on Moises Flores. That's a good fight. Ahmed Ali, he's been on the show a few times. He's trying to get back on track against the veteran Alan Green. And Guillermo Rigondeaux, yes, that Guillermo Rigondeaux is on the undercard. He's scheduled to fight Giovanni Delgado. Now, I don't know what's more surprising when I was looking at this, the fact that Rigondeaux is fighting on Saturday and nobody is talking about it. Nobody might not, I bet you a lot of people don't even know it, where at one point Rigondeaux was considered one of the 2 or 3 best fighters in the world, best boxers, pure talent in the world, right? It wasn't that long ago where he was in everybody's top 5 at least, pound for pound. But the other amazing thing about it is he only has 18 fights which I didn't really wrap my head around. And when I saw it, I was like, wow, only 18 fights. I've seen most of them. Obviously, the fight against Lomachenko is what's entrenched in everybody's brain now. Poor performance, yeah. Undersized, yeah. What can he do? I mean, Rigondeaux has a big problem in the sense where he doesn't really generate that exciting television fighter mystique that the networks want. And it's going to take him a while before he can get in a main event, I think, on a big channel. But good to see him fighting. I mean, purists love to see guys like that, and it's interesting to see what he has left. I mean, he's fighting a guy that's obviously on a lower tier, but hey, you got to start somewhere, right? So I'm looking forward to the action of this Saturday night. And of course, before we continue, let's take care of some other things. And obviously, Zutes Boxing Talk can be heard on the GroovingTruth.net, which is also a fabulous sports website. They have different podcasts and such from all different types of sports, anything you want. The GroovingTruth.net has it. You can also find us on topclassboxing.co.uk and Ring News 24 magazine. All carry Zutes Boxing Talk in the archives, so you can watch for that on those wonderful websites when you're sweeping through and looking for some good content to read or listen to. So we're going to be hearing from Mr. Miguel Flores in a little bit. That is a pre-recorded interview, so that one is set in stone. Trying to figure out where I want to go now. There's a couple of things that I had in mind to discuss. I guess I'll start with something I have not shared with the audience yet. I have become a member of the International Boxing Resource Organization over the December season, if you will. And it's an organization that's dedicated to the boxing history, to preserving the boxing history, and they have a lot of great members who are contributing in a lot of different ways. And one of the things members are going to be asked to do this year, and I'm excited about this. I came on board at the right time, and I want to thank Mr. Dave Wilcox for bringing the organization and the opportunity to my attention. And one of the things we are going to do, we are going to rate the top 20 fighters of all time in each weight class, as well as the pound for pound weight class. So the way we're doing it is we are going to do 3 weight classes at a time, I believe. And the first set of ballots are due in March, and that is flyweight. I believe it's from flyweight to featherweight. Flyweight, bantamweight, featherweight, if I'm not mistaken. We are also doing some junior ones, but I don't think the smaller weights are on the horizon for that. I think like junior middleweight is going to be done for the first time. And it's been a while since the International Boxing Resource Organization, otherwise known as the IBRO, has done this. So yeah, flyweight, bantamweight, and featherweight are the first 3. And our featherweight division is going to be well represented tonight when we speak with Miguel Flores in a little bit. So that a bit of news is exciting. And the other thing I wanted to share with you is this Sunday we're going to throw a new show at you. And this is not going to be a weekly show. This is going to be a periodic show, maybe once to twice a month. It's going to be called Zutes Throwback Boxing Show, where we dedicate the entire show to boxing history, right? And I mean, if you want to get technical, anything that happened yesterday is boxing history. But for all you fans of the older stuff, 70s and beyond, maybe 80s, I don't know, we might get some 80 themes there. that's what we're going to do. So the idea is I'm going to create a topic, question, or just a topic to discuss, create a panel, and then go for it. So this Sunday, our first show is dedicated around what was the first fight you remember seeing on television. Not first fight you saw live, you attended, one you saw on the idiot box, so to speak, right? Because I would think most people were first exposed to boxing on television rather than seeing it in a live arena, so to speak, nowadays, for most people living. So I think it's going to be an interesting thing. And as I mentioned already, tomorrow night we have a special bonus episode of Zutes Boxing Talk on, as we will have Teofimo Lopez and Lee Samuels are both going to join us. So that's going to be good. I created that because just for schedule interests, schedule complications, I should say. Had to have Teofimo and Lee on Thursday. So I said, this is a rare occurrence. Why not do two shows? So looking forward to hearing from Teofimo and Lee Samuels tomorrow. So let's get into some things that are happening. Us boxing fans, we're excited about the actual live boxing on television this weekend. And, it's been kind of dead in the water, so to speak, in terms of live action. A lot of things going on where you have speculation, right? And one of the things that caught my eye on social media, and I first saw this today, is the fact that Mr. Marcos Maidana, so allegedly, is interested in coming back. Now, I don't know if this is 100% true. Obviously, there's no fight announced with Maidana and anybody, and I can't say with full confidence that where I saw this is from an absolute reputable source where it can't be considered false, because we see false reports or premature things, clickbait, if you will, a lot in boxing. I mean, in anything really, but in boxing is where I usually go to when I'm looking for social media stuff. It's usually boxing posts. It's usually what my feed is full of. And a lot of times you just see things that people rush out there, or maybe just create out of their own ass just to get clicks. So I don't know if this is just a pipe dream or not, but what I saw was that Maidana wants to come back. He wants Floyd. He wants Canelo. He wants Khan. There was one other guy too. I forget who it is right now. That's a pretty hefty order too, right? Canelo, Floyd, Khan. Who was the other guy? I don't remember. Oh, Pacquiao. How can I forget Manny and Pacquiao? So obviously, that would be something that is a little bit down the road. And if you've seen any photos of Maidana recently, you know that he's nothing near any of the weights he's calling out. So he's going to really have to regroup. He got really, happy with dining, so to speak, because he blew up. I mean, he got really heavy. He got the 2 big paydays from the Mayweather fights, and he certainly showed how he was spending his money. It was going all to the stomach, and he did a great job. I mean, if you see Maidana, that stomach is one for the ages, but that's not going to win him any fights in boxing. And Maidana, I think, is one of the best exciting fighters that we have had over the last 20 years or so. One of the more underappreciated fighters too, right? I mean, if you look at his resume, right? Look at the losses. Kotelnik, joke. He won that fight, right? Khan, a little closer, but I thought he pulled it out. I thought he beat Khan, and he certainly had his troubles early in that fight, but I thought at the end, if you really watch, especially if you paid particular attention to Maidana's body work, he won that fight by a couple of rounds. Certainly not as blatantly bad as the Kotelnik fight, but I certainly feel that Maidana beat Khan. So those are 2 wins right there that should be on his resume. I thought he beat Mayweather the first time around. Let's not get started with that, right? What's the narrative in the Mayweather fight? Those who did not think he won, well, he did good for the first 4 or 5 rounds, and then Floyd turned it around. So I guess only if your name is Marvelous Marvin Hagler, if you allegedly lose the first 4 rounds in the fight, you have no way of winning, right? Because that's the narrative in the Hagler-Leonard fight, right? There's no way Hagler could have won. He lost the first 4 rounds. He gave the first 4 rounds away. Well, first of all, he didn't, but that's a whole other thing. So I'm just still trying to figure out how, if Floyd could still win after losing the first 4 rounds, but Marvin can't. I don't know. I'm trying to figure that one out. But I thought at worst, Maidana should be given a draw in the Mayweather fight. But I certainly watched that fight enough to think that Maidana certainly won. A draw is about all I'm willing to concede, and I'm not sure about that either, right? So let's say the guy, if he would have gotten a victory over Kotelnik, which he damn well should have, that's the worst one of the bunch, could have easily been called a winner against Khan, and nobody would have complained. Could have easily been called a winner against Mayweather in the first fight. And other than the real diehard Mayweather fans, I don't think anybody would have complained. And let's not even talk about the Kenny Bayless. The rematch. I can't even gauge the Floyd Mayweather Maidana rematch because of the disgusting, blatant interjection by Mr. Bayless. He totally changed that fight and created a narrative that made it impossible for you to really see if that was, an honest win, so to speak. It just was a terrible job. He wouldn't let Maidana do anything. And in that fight, I think it was the 6th round, Maidana probably hurt Mayweather more in that fight than he ever did in the first fight. Hit him with a good right hand, and Mayweather did the chicken dance into the corner, and the only problem was the bell rang to end that round, which would have been interesting. I would have loved to have seen how Kenny Bayless would have handled that had that right hand landed and Floyd did that little dance with more time left. Thankfully for Kenny Bayless, he didn't have to be tested, because I guarantee you he would have made it even more obvious than what it already was. Had that occurred with, let's say, even 40 seconds left, because that's a lot of time in a boxing match. So the only really real legitimate loss where he was outclassed was against Devin Alexander, Maidana. And I'm still trying to figure out what the hell happened in that fight. They say all fighters have one of those bad nights going into it. They already know they're in for a shitstorm. They're always in for a shitstorm, but they know that Vinny Paz said it best when he was on our show. He had 5 fights where he said, man, the only way I even have a chance to be competitive is if my opponent has a bad night and they're not ready. I think that's not to take anything away from Alexander, but nobody is going to convince me that if Devin Alexander and Maidana fought 5 times, that Maidana wouldn't have won 4 out of the 5 times. So Maidana, I would welcome him coming back. I think it's going to take him a while to get into any kind of shape. I don't know if it would be wise to take on one of those big names without having at least one quote-unquote tune-up fight. Except for Pacquiao, maybe. I think I think he could beat Pacquiao pretty easily first time around. I don't think Pacquiao has much left. I certainly don't think he should fight Canelo right off the bat. Although I could see that being a dream for Canelo in the zone. But we'll see. And I wrote an article not that long ago when I thought Maidana was hanging him up and done, because that's what it appeared to be his interest was, enjoying his money and retiring. I said that, we should really consider having this guy be inducted in Canastota to the Boxing Hall of Fame in 5 years. And a few people thought I was crazy. And I say the same thing I said when I made the case for Rocky Lockridge. I mean, Rocky Lockridge had about 3 fights at least where he fought Chavez, Pedroza, Wilfredo Gomez. Wilfredo Gomez and Pedroza especially should have been called the winner. Absolutely nobody would have complained if he was given the win over Chavez. I mean, Chavez was a known champion at that time, but he wasn't the legend at that time. That was a close fight that could have easily went Lockridge's way. And if I'm not mistaken, that was the fight that used to have a loss on Chavez's record. I believe that fight was NBC, and on the record, Chavez had a loss that was some kind of a disqualification or something. I forget the whole story, and then that loss disappeared as Chavez's career and the legend grew larger. Now, it could have been legitimate. They could have got the call overturned. That's happened in boxing. But my point is, if you have victories on your record over Pedroza, Wilfredo Gomez, Chavez, the first Tony Lopez fight could have easily been called his way, plus all the good wins that he had those fights gone his way, he's a no-brainer for the Hall of Fame as far as I'm concerned. If Maidana's record said W after the Kotelnik fight, W after the Khan fight, and W after the Mayweather fight, he's already in. I don't think that's a debate. So if that's the case, why is it such a stretch to put them in now? Why are we giving judges that much power? Well, we all know what the deal is with these judges. I mean, sometimes it's inability to think beyond the skin of the onion, an inability to critically think, an inability to just get away from the banter. I think that is what we latch on to things, and then we, without really digging deep, and we go with it. Like, there's no way he could have won. He lost the first 4 rounds. That makes absolutely no sense if you know how a boxing match is scored. I don't know. Well, we'll see Maidana. If he does not come back, I hope he gets heavy consideration for the Hall of Fame whenever his time is up. If he comes back and has a couple of super wins, I think that'll solidify it. The first thing that guy's got to do is get on the treadmill. somebody who is in great shape because they have a very important fight coming up is Miguel Flores, and he's going to be on in just a second or two. This is a pre-recorded interview that I had with Miguel Flores just last night. He couldn't make it tonight. We met in the middle somewhere, so to speak. This is a pre-recorded, fresh off the presses from last evening. So here it is. Without any further ado, getting ready for his big fight with Leo Santa Cruz, Miguel Flores. Alrighty, my next guest is a professional fighter from the super featherweight division. He sports a record of 23-2 with 11 knockouts, and he has a big fight coming up on February the 16th against Leo Santa Cruz for the WBA Super World Featherweight title, one of the first big fights of 2019. Welcome to the show, Miguel Flores. How are you doing tonight?
Hey, doing great, guys. Getting ready for this big fight we got coming up.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly is a big fight. I want to go back a little bit. 2018, you get back on the winning track. You fight in April of 2018. You stop Raul Chirino in 2 rounds. Good quality win for you. Good to get back on the winning side because you had those 2 losses in a row. Talk a little bit about what that fight meant to you.
Well, it was, I guess, I wouldn't say a confidence booster because, I believe my fight before that against Chris Avalos, we were putting up a great fight. And I think a lot of people say, oh, well, he lost to Avalos. But in reality, we know what happened in the Avalos fight. I was up on all the scorecards. I had just dropped Avalos and just a bad call on the ref on calling my cuts were caused by a punch instead of saying they were caused by a headbutt. And if that would have been the case, the fight would have went to the scorecards and I would have been up. But I guess, we just put that to the side and we got really back in the winning streak. And, like you said, it was a good win to get back on track. And, we're going to be ready come February 16th.
Yeah, it's one of those things where, in boxing, Miguel, people have short memories, and they might not remember the details. All they know is what they see on the record, and that was 2 losses in a row. So it was good to get that win, even though, like you said, you probably got shortchanged in that Avalos fight.
Yes, you're right. I mean, when people go on my record, they don't really see, well, how was the fight? They only see a loss by TKO, 5th or 6th round. That's the only thing they see. So you're right about that. But I mean, if you're not just if you really watch boxing, then you really know, okay, that fight, it was actually, a good fight up until that point with Avalos, and I don't want to gauge it on that, but Avalos fought Santa Cruz right after that fight, and I think I put up a way better performance than Leo did against Avalos. I was able to drop Avalos, something Leo couldn't do, and Avalos was actually giving Leo a pretty good fight.
Yeah, and that leads me to a question I wanted to ask him. Might as well ask it now. I mean, Chris Avalos. I mean, obviously you had the fight with Wynn where you had a disappointment as well, but Chris Avalos, he's a guy that seems to have been getting better, and we saw that with Santa Cruz. How was he as a fighter?
Well, yeah, as you mentioned, no excuses on that Gwen fight. That fight, I didn't have no excuses, definitely. I trained hard, and, I just got caught by a good punch. I think something that could happen to any young up-and-coming fighter. But as far as the Chris Avalos, he improved a lot, and, like I said, I don't want to gauge it on that. But given the fact that he was putting up a great fight against Santa Cruz, that kind of lets us know where we stand. And we're not going to, a lot of people think, here's Leo Santa Cruz fighting another bum, another cab driver. It's not going to be none of that. We're going to make it very, very difficult for him come February 16th.
Now, the one thing about last year, you had the big win in April, but no fights after that. How come? How come you didn't fight again until this coming February?
Well, we were actually in talks with the Avalos team about getting the rematch in. Something we really, really wanted because, like you said, we felt like we got the short end of that decision, but that didn't come to fruition. And then we had other dates, and that fell through. But when the opportunity presented itself to fight Leo, that was something we weren't gonna pass up on. I honestly wasn't expecting to get that fight right off the bat, but it came along, and so it's an opportunity. It's a life-changing opportunity. God willing, with this win after February 16, we're right there among the top 3 featherweights in the division. I know it's a stacked, loaded division, but I feel like we're up there with the top featherweights.
Now, has anybody, Avalos, anybody connected to the Texas Athletic Commission, anybody at all, the referee, anybody tell you or your people, yeah, sorry about that, we blew that call?
Well, right after the fight, there was some smoke, around that controversy, and people from the commission. Well, it was in Louisiana. That fight was in Louisiana. People told us that the decision will be overruled, and that the ref made a bad call, that the ref had admitted to making a bad call because it was on B where he announced, that it was an awful accidental headbutt. But after that, man, I felt a little disappointed because I kind of just got set on the bench. Nobody would call me no more. Nobody would, say nothing about the fight. So it was a little bit disappointed, but I've been through so much in my career that I didn't let that hold me back. I stayed in the gym, stayed grinding, and like I said, I just waited for the opportunity, and it presented itself. Now I think we moved on to bigger and better things than just the Avalos rematch. I think either way, after this fight, the Avalos rematch will still be there, regardless, no matter what.
I'm sorry, I said Texas. I was thinking of your fight last year, obviously.
Yeah.
Louisiana, where they made the big mistake, not known as one of the more competent commissions. Will you swear off all fights in Louisiana? Will you not go back there after you've gotten stiff like that?
No, none of that. I mean, I think, it's just a learning experience, I would say. We know, refs and judges, they're always doing the best job possible. But, next time, I'm a fighter that likes to fight on the inside. So I believe that cuts are inevitable. They're bound to happen. So just kind of point out, hey, that was a headbutt. But it's just learning experience. I'd be glad to fight. That was actually a pretty nice arena where they had the Avalos fight. Really great setup. So, man, if they were offer us a fight back there, I would be more than welcome to come back to Louisiana.
All righty. Now, going into the Santa Cruz fight, you're considered a reasonable underdog. I think a guy that a lot of people put some money on going in late, but at this point in time, Santa Cruz is the big favorite. In the Dat Win fight, you were the big favorite. Now, you said you trained hard, but was there any overlooking or not really giving that win? Were you looking past that win? Were you overlooking him? Was there anything mentally, not physically, not the training part, that led you to believe going in there he wasn't going to be as tough as he was?
I asked myself that even after the fight, even up to today, what happened in that fight. And like you said, I mean, even as a fighter, you say, okay, I'm not overlooking this guy. But in reality, in your mind, you're like, this guy is not on my level. So that's already overlooking him. And, you have to always go in with the mentality that anything can happen in the ring. Anything with 8-ounce gloves, anybody can be hurt, can be knocked out. A lot, like you say, a lot of people are already writing me off. I know Leo is probably the number one featherweight guy in the division. So, I'm going against the top dog. For the Dat Win fight, all the pressure was on me. I was an undefeated kid fighting in his hometown of Houston. I had all my people there behind me. That was pressure for me. Dat Win didn't have no type of pressure. He was just an underdog coming to pull off the upset. If he lost, well, it was bound to happen. But if he won, it was a life-changing opportunity for him. So he had no pressure, so he did what he had to do. Now the roles kind of changed on the Santa Cruz fight. Now he's the one with the pressure. He's the world champion. The fight will be in L.A. He has to perform good against his people. If he beats me, well, it was bound to happen. He beat a 23-2 kid, tough kid, but he beat him. That was what was supposed to happen. But all the pressure is on him. I have no pressure. I'm not undefeated anymore. I'm just going in there to make it a rough, tough fight for him, and that's what we plan to do.
Yeah, so talk a little bit about the getting the fight. How did you find out, and what were your feelings when you got this big opportunity?
Yeah, well, at the time, it was I told the story. It's a little bit, funny. I had some personal issues back at home, so I was living with my sister. My family, we were living with my sister, and when I got the call, obviously, I couldn't believe it. It took a few days to sink in, and ultimately now, I was when I got the fight, I was in the process of buying my home, and I tell people if I would have known I was going to fight Leo Santa Cruz, I probably would have got a bigger house. But it was, it's something my family didn't believe in. They follow boxing, and my mom, she knows who Leo Santa Cruz is, and that's actually one of her favorite fighters. But hey, I told her, we're going against the top guy in the division, so like I said, it's a life-changing opportunity, something we weren't gonna pass up on. Like I said before, a lot of people think, oh, well, why that fight? Flores didn't deserve that fight. But, man, I know everything I've done up to this point. It's been a long road and a long path for me. My brother passed away from boxing, and, it's been a long road. So I know what I deserve, and I know, this opportunity is not just being given to me. I've worked hard in the gym as well to deserve this type of opportunity, and we're going to make the best of it. I hope Leo, I know he's a professional, and I know he's not overlooking me, but I have a feeling, they're kind of looking ahead already into bigger fights, Gary Russell, Oscar Valdez, those type of fights, when he still had to step in February 16 and, fight me before he thinks of any of those.
Now, I want to clarify something here. This is for the featherweight title. They're calling it the super featherweight title because the WBA has the super champion, but the weight class is the 126-pound weight class, right?
Yeah, that is correct. We
Okay.
have all these sanctioning bodies, and the WBA does have the regular champ and the super champ. The regular champ, I believe, is Jesus Rojas, and Leo Santa Cruz is the super champion. Yeah, we're fighting for the WBA super featherweight championship of the world.
All righty, good. Thank you for that. Now, looking at your record, you've weighed in a lot of times over 126 a pound or so. Over, is 126 your most comfortable weight?
Yes, actually, that was probably a issue I always had. Even before I had a promoter, a lot of these guys were the type of guys, either you're gonna fight me at this weight or we're not fighting. So we would give up a pound or two. For me, making the 126-pound limit, it's making weight is never easy, but I could still do it eating one day before the weigh-ins and stuff like that. So if it was up to me, well, even now, I've always said no excuses to the Dak Win fight, but that's one fight that we were scheduled to fight at 127. Then they asked for an extra pound, which was 128. Ultimately, Dak Win came in about 129 and a quarter. That was almost 2 pounds over what we had agreed upon, and I made the decision. It was my decision. I was like, okay, we didn't want to blow out a whole camp. We had the TB, Fox, and everything, so we didn't want to, pull out the fight. But it's been an issue always. Me fighting bigger guys, my opponents always outweighing me. So making the 126-pound limit for me, it's even better. I know how much I'll gain up after weigh-ins and stuff. So I'm fine at 126.
Okay, now, and obviously with that, you and your opponent add more weight on because you weighed in the night before. So typically when you walk in fight night, what do you usually weigh around? And what do you think Leo is going to be tipping the scale at fight night?
Well, I'm the type of fighter, I stay pretty close around my weight. Right now if I step on the scale, I'm probably 136. About 10 pounds from weight, and we still have a little more over 5 weeks to go. after weigh-ins, I may gain about 5-6 pounds, which is not a lot. I'll be up to 133, 134. As far as Leo, I mean, I've watched some of his fights, and on fight night, he's walking around 137, 138. So we'll be in around the 2-3 pound weight range. So that's not no big difference. One thing I can say about the Dag Win fight, nothing surprised me about him. I knew he was gonna be a tough fighter. One thing though I can tell you about the Dag Win fight, he felt way heavier than I did. I would land some great shots, and he would just walk through, and I'm like, this dude has to be weighing at least 147 pounds for him to be able to take those kind of punches. And, that's, like I said, that was always an issue, me having to fight bigger guys. And like you say, you weigh in a certain weight at the weigh-ins. After that, you go and blow up 10, 15 pounds. It's insane how much a guy could blow up after weigh-ins.
Yeah, definitely. And you mentioned your older brother, Benjamin Flores. Tragedy struck your family. I mean, he was a former boxer who got hit with the thing that we always think about when we watch this sport. If you can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, my brother, he was a up and coming fighter, just like me, up and coming contender. It was a tragic night. It was 2009 April. He was fighting for the NABF super bantamweight title. My brother was at 122, and it was a tough fight. I felt the fight was pretty close on the scorecards. He may have been down 1 point. He had just came off his best round, which was the 7th, and coming into the 8th round, I guess. I figured, well, he just got caught with a good shot and got stopped. The fight got waved off. I believe the ref was Lawrence Cole. And, the fight got waved off, so I ran in the ring, but I was like, maybe he'll just get the paramedics some oxygen in him and we'll be good to go. But things had a big twist. We took him to the hospital, and that's where they told us he had a brain damage. His brain was swelling, so they had to remove skull to relieve the pressure. And, we asked a lot of questions, and some questions didn't have answers. A lot of them were like, did that happen that night, or it just something that throughout the years the punches are accumulating and stuff like that. Ultimately, my brother was in coma for 5 days, and we had to make the tough decision to let him go. It was a hard decision my parents had to make. But ultimately, ever since that day, I never doubted myself or stopping me from boxing. That never ran through my mind. I always kind of knew what I wanted, and it was a dream that my brother and myself had that we wanted to become world champions. And like I said, it's not a dream I'm gonna give up on. So I had the biggest opportunity of my life at age 16 to fulfill that dream for my brother and myself to become world champion, and God willing, it'll all come through.
And my sincere condolences on that. That's never easy, of course. Was there any pushback from your family for you to stop after that?
Well, obviously there was. My family had mixed emotions. My dad was always just real quiet about it. My mom and my sister would definitely tell me, just give it up and look for another career or do something else. But like I said, ultimately it was my decision. I kind of thought to myself, we came so far down this road, and I didn't want my brother's death to be just for nothing. So, like I said, I don't know why before my brother passed away, sometimes he would just message me and tell me, whatever happens, you keep going. You're gonna get far in life. You're gonna become world champion. Don't stop because of me. So, that would throw me off a little bit. I don't know if it was because he kind of felt that something was gonna happen, or he just thought that I actually had it in me to get far in life. Either way, like I said, the biggest opportunity of my life to fulfill both my brother and my dreams is right around the corner. So, sometimes at first I would feel a little disrespected when people were like, "Oh, who's this bum? Who's this guy?" But I mean, I'm no rookie to the sport. Like I said, I mean, I've suffered so many things in my career that that stuff, it kind of just rolled on through, after a while. I was like, man, these people don't know what they're talking about. I think as a fan or even, just as a watcher of the sport, you have to respect anybody that dares to step in the ring, because it's obviously not easy, and it's a tough sport that you could literally, die any day from, in there. You get hit with a good shot, and man, you never know what can happen.
Definitely. Now, obviously, as a fighter, when it's all said and done, it's you and your opponent. Nobody is in the ring with you. But a fighter does have to have a strong unit around them to succeed. They have to have a strong corner. They have to have a manager who's looking out for them. Talk a little bit about the people that are handling you and how confident you are in them.
Well, I've been sticking with the same program ever since I was younger. We had Aaron Navarro as our head trainer. He's always been, kind of been there. And then we have Bobby Benton. He's doing great things. He's my cut man, which he's also, he holds mids for me and, does a lot of good things for me and my team. And we have one of the best strength conditioning trainers in the business, Edward Jackson. He's worked with many, many great fighters, Andre Ward, Floyd Mayweather, Diego Corrales. He's in our corner too. And as far as my management team, Louis the Cuba Jr., he got us a big deal with Premier Boxing Champions, PBC, Al Heyman. So we're circled by a great team and great people that are handling my career. And, I don't think they would let me take this fight if they didn't think I was ready for this type of challenge.
Now, the PBC and Al Heyman especially, they're kind of polarizing figures. Heyman has this mysterious mystique to him because he doesn't talk to anybody. But he's done a good thing, I think, for the fighters in the sense where he's gotten them a lot of TV time. And it's been reported that he goes out of his way to pay more to the fighters, more than sometimes what people think they're worth. I mean, it's great that finally the money is actually trickling down to the fighters. What has been your experience with the PBC and Mr. Heyman?
Well, given the fact, like you say, he's a little low-key, I can't tell you I've talked to him because obviously, he doesn't, like you say, he doesn't talk to anybody. But the way I've been treated, man, it's been great. Even after my losses, after I lost with Dak Gwynn, I got some more TV time. My fight with Chris Avalos was televised. Even after that, he put me on the winning column. Now he's giving me this opportunity. So, regardless of what the situation is, they're giving us fighters opportunities. And he's also making great fights. They just they had us all out last December. I believe it was December for the PBC press conference. You had over 20 guys there, top level guys, Keith Thurman, Danny Garcia, Mikey Garcia, Errol Spence. You had all the top guys there. And, he announced some very, very good fights for the beginning of 2019. So I know a lot of people complain, why is this fight getting made? Why is that fight getting made? But at the end of the day, there are great fights getting made, and you have fighters that are actually daring to be great. You have Abner Mares fighting Gervonta Davis. Nobody thinks Abner could do it, but he's believing in himself. He's daring to be great. So that's something you have to respect. And then you have Mikey Garcia fighting the killer at 147, a much bigger guy, and Errol Spence daring to be great. Mikey could easily stay at 30, 35, whatever way he fights at it, and beat these guys, but he wants a bigger challenge. So, for people to complain, sometimes, like I said, boxing fans can be cruel to us, because, there are fights getting made, and you guys are going to enjoy, boxing fans are going to enjoy great action fights, So, it's better than for us to be just sitting on the shelf and not getting any exposure. Al Heyman and PBC, they're making it happen. Like I said, they're bringing great fights to TV, and he's getting a great TV time, so that's what matters.
All righty. So talk a little bit about your approach to this fight. Any names that we would know that you're choosing as sparring partners? I mean, you don't want to give away any of your strategies, but obviously the thing that most fighters do is they try and pick sparring partners that emulate the guy that they're fighting. So have you been able to do that for this fight?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we have top featherweight guys here from Texas. The one thing we know about Leo, he comes to fight. He's that type of Mexican fighter that comes to throw punches, and you're not gonna get less than 100 punches around. So when we picked out our sparring partners, we knew we have to get guys that are willing to get hit and throw back twice as many punches. So we have a lot of guys that in the gym that are making me throw over 100 punches around. As far as the strategy that we're using, it's going to be a little bit of everything, man. We know that there's going to be a point in the fight where we're going to stand there and basically hold our ground, because obviously I think people think, oh, well, all Flores can do is brawl it out, but they're going to be surprised how well I can use my jab, how much I can move around, and my ring IQ. But obviously there's going to be a point in the fight that we're obviously both Mexican, so that's going to be something that at one point of the fight we're going to have to do, stand there, and we know it's going to be a great. That's only going to produce a great fight for the fans in attendance and the fans watching.
Yeah, definitely. Now, how much stock do you put in fight film? Do you and your team, do you study a lot of film and look for weaknesses that way, or look for strategies that way? Have you been watching a lot of Santa Cruz fights?
I've watched, even before I knew I was going to fight him. Even though I'm a professional fighter, I'm a boxing fan myself. So I watched a lot of his fights with Abner Mares, with Carl Frampton, his fight with Avalos, without even thinking I was going to fight the guy one day. But, yeah, we're the type of team that we like to see, what the guy is bringing to the table. We're not looking at mistakes. We're looking probably at bad habits that he's doing over and over and over again every fight. So we're watching, and I'm the type of fighter, too, that likes to watch and know what the other guy's doing, what kind of work he's doing, what kind of work he's putting in, so I could double that. I know a lot of fighters like, oh, well, I don't like to watch. I don't like to know anything about him. Me, I'm the opposite. I want to know the guy. I want to know the guy I'm fighting. I want to know his routine. I want to know what he's doing, what type of work he's putting in.
Yeah, I mean, I'm the last guy to give the strategy advice in a prize fight, but one thing we all see from Santa Cruz is when he does that little twist of his gloves before he throws. If I'm training, I'm practicing when he does it. I'm throwing right hands right at the glove and to disrupt his rhythm.
Yeah. Obviously, I know that's probably one of the things most people have told us. Check his glove.
I mean, everybody
see
that. Right?
Yeah, everybody can see when he's twisting the glove. But then also with my team, we talked about it. It's a habit that he has, that he does that, and I've heard he does that to reset his hand back in position. He has 35, 36 pro fights. I think if throughout those 36 fights he's fought top guys in in his era, and none of them have been able to kind of capitalize on that. So it's something we're not gonna my team, we're not gonna pay too much attention on that, because obviously he's doing it and not a lot of fighters are catching on to that, or it's not even possible to catch on that. It's not even a thing. So it's just something we're kind of just going on through. Obviously, if we're able to catch him while he's doing that, what more than a great thing that would be. But like I said, I think it's more of this fight is gonna be more of what I do than what he does. I'm not worried about what he's doing, because I kind of basically know he's gonna go in there, throw 100, 120 punches around, get hit and come right back. So there's more of what I have to do. I have to stick to the game plan. Don't get carried away too early in a firefight, because obviously he's the more experienced guy, talking round wise. He's been 12 rounds many times. I've only been 10 rounds 3-4 times. So he knows what it takes to go 12 rounds. He has the experience on his side on that aspect. So we got to stay calm, and like I said, don't get carried away too much in his type of fight too early in there.
Yeah, I mean, he really is one of the greatest fighters in the world right now. He loses the fight to Frampton, comes back in a rematch and makes a tremendous adjustment to do that, where a lot of people didn't think he was going to be able to do that. He's been around. He's a veteran. He's not going to be able to make adjustments. He made adjustments in that Frampton fight, and that was the big difference in that rematch.
Yes, obviously, I think back then Leo was just a straight come forward type of fighter, come forward, throw a bunch of punches. Lately, what I've noticed is he does he tries to box a little more. You know, his boxing IQ may not be that great, but he tries to move his feet around. He definitely uses it. He uses jab a lot more against in the rematch against Carl and in the rematch against Abner. You know, I think that was the difference in both fights, how well he used his jab. And, you know, like I said, he didn't just come straight forward. He kind of moved his feet a little more and tried to box a little more and not just go straight into the impact, you know. But obviously I know he's probably thinking, well, you know, I have to get this guy out of there before, you know, I start getting criticized too much for going so many rounds with a guy that, you know, shouldn't be on my level. But like I said, it's not going to be easy fight for him. I'm definitely putting in work. I'm definitely grinding hard in the gym, doing all my road work, and it's not going to be easy fight for him. And a lot of people are going to be surprised of what we're able to do.
You were born in Mexico, correct?
Yes, I was born in Mexico, hometown of Michoacan, and actually he's from over there too. You know, his family and folks, they come from not the same exact little town, but we're from the same state in Mexico.
When did you move over to the U.S. and you know, was it when you were really young?
I was about 3 or 4 years old when I came to the United States. And then my brother came over here too. So my brother was about 8 years older than me. When my brother was about 12, 13 years old, he started boxing. So I used to just go hang out at the gym with him and, you know, kind of horseplay around at the gym. So, you know, I've been around the environment for so many years. You know, I wouldn't say I'm a rookie. I'm a veteran to the sport as well.
All righty. So talk a little bit about your boxing history knowledge. Who are some of the fighters that you admire of the past, and some other fighters that you really like to watch today?
Well, you know, like I said, I'm a fan of the sport. One of my favorite fighters has always been Marco Antonio Barrera. You know, kind of watch how he developed his career. You know, as a brawler in his young age. You know, he was a brawler, just come forward. And more towards the end of his career, you know, when he fought Nassim Hamed, when he fought Eric Morales the third time, you know, the dude had so great boxing skills. You know, we saw how easily he handled Hamed with his jab, with 1-1-2. You know, and even towards the end of his career, you know, he kind of just became a boxer. So that's probably my favorite boxer, you know, all-time boxer. Him and Juan Manuel Marquez, obviously, you know, Juan Manuel has the great combinations, great footwork and counter-punching abilities. But if you ask me for today, my favorite fighter will probably, I would have to go with either Mikey Garcia or Vasily Lomachenko. You know, they both have a great boxing IQ, great ability, you know, to neutralize what their opponent is doing. So, you know, for today, you know, I would say Mikey Garcia is probably my all favorite fighter.
All righty, so this is the first time on your show, Miguel. I try and ask all fighters this, the first time they come on Zutes Boxing Talk. If you could put yourself in a time machine and go back in time and fight a fighter in your weight class to test your skills against, who would that fighter be? I think I might already know the answer, but maybe you'll surprise us. And fast forward, moving ahead, I mean, that might be the answer already. You're getting your dream fight against Santa Cruz, but is there anybody else out there today that you would really love to test your skills against? So one from the past and one from the present. Who would they be?
Well, from the past, it would probably definitely have to be Barrera. You know, I think
I knew it.
I like because you know, a lot of people think that I'm just a straightforward come fighter and throw hooks and stuff, but like I said, and that was Barrera, just come forward, left hook to the body, and you know, try to get the guy out of there. But ultimately, I think I'm a better boxer than most people think. I can use my jab, I can use the ring, so you know, I kind of you know, feel like I'm that type of fighter. And as far as the guys from today, I mean, what can I say? It's a loaded division at the 126. You know, we have great fighters. I think, like I said, I'm going against, if not the number one guy, I'm going against
you're right there
the
at the level. There's nowhere else to go. This is the fight. You're getting your future fight pretty soon.
Yeah, but obviously, you know, looking ahead of myself, thinking positive. You know, if I do beat when I do beat Leo Santa Cruz, you know, I would like to match up against all the top featherweights. I mean, people have to realize sometimes it takes more than two guys wanting a fight for it to happen. You know, there's a lot of negotiations behind doors. You know, a lot of other things that hold fights from happening. But I will be more than glad to fight any other champions. You know, you have great champions. Oscar Valdez. You know, he's a great power puncher. You have Josh Warrington, who just beat Carl Frampton. You know, he's a big volume puncher. You have Gary Russell. You know, he's probably the fastest guy, one of the fastest guys in the division. So, like I said, man, it's no missed division. It's one of the best divisions in boxing. You know, as a boxing fan, I would love for those fights to happen. You know, Valdez versus Santa Cruz, or Santa Cruz versus Gary Russell, or Warrington versus any of those guys. You know, but you know, like I said, sometimes it just takes more than two guys wanting to fight for it to happen. But if you know if I'm in the top of the throne, and you know, I would do everything in my power to make those fights happen. Definitely.
Alrighty, so the fight's right around the corner, February the 16th, and not that far away. Talk about what your camp is going to be like up until then. What's the agenda from now until fight night?
Well, you know, right now we're doing 3 sparrings a week. You know, we're sticking to our road work, sticking to our strength and conditioning. You know, we're planning to head out to LA towards the end of January or the beginning of February. You know, I know that's one thing we really want to do, is be out there about 2 weeks before the fight to get just accustomed to the climate. You know, I'm in Texas, so you know, we're a little bit more a 2-hour difference. You know, I know we're a little bit ahead on time, so we just want to get accustomed to the time. You know, it's 2 hours, but it actually makes a difference. And just we're gonna be out there, you know, getting some sparring in with some of the top guys in Cali, and definitely we'll be ready for February 16th.
All righty, so tell everybody out there how they can see the fight live at the arena. Where is it going to be? And if not, how can we see it on TV?
Definitely, the fight will be at the Microsoft Theater. Like I said, Al Heyman is bringing a lot of great fights to TV. It will be on Fox or Fox Deportes. Actually, the first televised event of PBC will be this January 13th. I believe it'll be this Sunday. So, you know, tune in. The fights are going to be at the Microsoft Theater. You know, it's going to be a great packed night of boxing. You're not, you know, two Mexican featherweights. You know, what else can you ask for?
Yeah, and that's in Los Angeles, California. I mean, we really appreciate you coming by. We're definitely looking forward to this fight, Miguel Flores against Leo Santa Cruz. Probably the top, I think the top featherweight in a division right now, and you get your shot at it. We thank you and we appreciate your time. Now's the time for some closing remarks. Any social media out there you want the fans to know about? Now's the time.
Yeah, definitely. You know, follow me on Twitter, Instagram. My Instagram is @L_Michoacano 2, and same goes for Twitter. You know, I'm on there daily, you know, updating stories and stuff like that about my daily routine. So you can follow me on there, and definitely we'll be in touch with the media and fans.
All righty, thank you, Miguel Flores. You have a great rest of your evening.
Definitely, man. Thank you. You guys have a good one. See you guys February 16th.
Let him go. Bang. A lot of blood on the face of Marvin Hagler, and let's see if he just doesn't try to do some serious business or just get through. That jab of Hearns is effective, even though he's throwing it off the back foot. A good right hand by Hagler drives Hearns into the ropes once more.
Tommy can't take too much of this. And again, it's a matter of accumulation of punches thrown by Hagler, which is probably wear Tommy down.
I'm sure Marvin feels that he has got to hurry things up here because that cut is not going to get any better. There's no question about it. Right hand says Hearns. He doesn't know where he is. Hagler goes in for the kill now.
He's gone. He's gone.
He's down, and he may be out. I'm not sure he can make it. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And he's up. He's up at 9. He doesn't know where he is. It's over. This one is history. Marvin Hagler, a tremendous victory. And there will be...
Referee Richard Steele stops the bout at 2 minutes, 1 second of the third round. The winner by a TKO and still undisputed middleweight champion of the world, Marvelous Marvin Hagler.
Hi, Jeff Fennicky, three-time boxing champion of the world. You're listening to Zutes Boxing Talk. Don't miss this show. It's a great show.
All righty, we are back live at Zutes Boxing Talk. So there you have it, Miguel Flores getting ready for his huge opportunity against Leo Santa Cruz. And if you look at this featherweight division, it is unbelievable. You look at all the champions at the top, Santa Cruz, Gary Russell Jr., you could certainly get into an argument of who you think the better one is there. Jesus Rojas, Josh Warrington, Oscar Valdez, all solid fighters. You look at the guys in the rankings, Joseph Diaz, Claudio Marrero is a good young-looking good fighter, young kid. He's fighting soon. Kid Galahad, Scott Quigg is still out there. Jesse Magdaleno, I don't think his career is quite over yet. I still think there's a lot of story left in his career. Shakur Stevenson, still very young, but he's climbing up the ranks. I mean, you got a stacked division. And that Flores-Santa Cruz fight kicks off a pretty good slate of fights from the PBC. And a lot of it is going to be on Fox later this month. Keith Thurman is back in action against Josecito Lopez. I still think Keith Thurman should be considered the best 147-pounder in the world. That's another stacked division up at the top. If Thurman can get going and fight some of these guys, it'll really be fun for us to really, let them figure it out. Let either Terrence Crawford or Errol Spence prove me wrong anyway, and beat these guys and prove who the best is, right? You'll also have a little bit later on Sean Porter, another talented welterweight, fighting Yordanis Ugas in early March. Lamont Peterson taking on Sergey Lipinets early in the year. I forget exactly when that fight is, but that's another good-looking fight that the PBC has. Peter Quillen and Caleb Truax is a good fight. Danny Garcia against the tough Adrian Granados. A lot of good fights. I mean, look, a lot of these fights are not superstar versus superstar. I get that, but that's never what boxing should always be about. At some point, we want to see superstar versus superstar. And if we're brutally honest, Miguel Flores does not stand much of a chance to win this fight in the hopes of the powers that be, right? Flores is ranked 12th. That's about as low as you could go to get a title shot. Everybody wants to see Santa Cruz and Gary Russell later in the year. So the powers that be really don't want Flores to win. So you have to be careful if you're Flores with that. And I probably should have mentioned this to him. With the judges, those wonderful judges, I think it's going to have to be really convincing for Miguel Flores to get any kind of a decision. But that's not to say he can't win this fight. I think he presents his style. He's going to bring it. He's a tough kid. He can mix it up. If he can figure out how to get inside, get underneath the jab of Santa Cruz, he could certainly make things happen. But the television networks, the powers that be, they want Santa Cruz versus Russell Jr. So when you see this kind of fight, you can't help but root for Miguel Flores if you're a guy like me who likes to upset the apple cart, so to speak. And I think he could certainly do that. We're going to take a quick break, and we should have Charles Foster, light heavyweight, on right after this.
My name is Miguel Flores, fighting for the WBA featherweight title February 16th, live at the LA Microsoft Theater, and you are listening to Zutes Boxing Talk.
All righty, we are back live. Welcome to Zutes Boxing Talk. If you're just joining us, remember to go to thegruelingtruth.net, topclassboxing.co.uk, and ringnews24.com for all your boxing fixes. You can follow me on Twitter at Zutes29, capital Z-U-T-E 29. Our next guest is a professional fighter from the light heavyweight division. He sports a record of 17-0 with 8 KOs. He is coming off of a terrific 2018 where he was victorious 3 times. He's climbing up the ranks. He's getting a lot of attention. I've been wanting to talk to this man for quite some time now, Mr. Charles Foster. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, man. Thank you for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. My pleasure. Now, let's go back a little bit, talk a little bit about the origin of Charles Foster, the boxer. When did you decide that this is what you wanted to do?
Well, actually, both sets of my great-grandfathers were boxers, some in the military, some just picked it up as a hobby. But my father introduced me to the sport. He was a late bloomer. He turned pro when he was about 30, so then he started teaching me and my brother. But I got into boxing when I was 7 years old.
Now, do you remember that moment where you knew you wanted to compete on the professional level? I mean, was it right away? Was there a moment there where you said, hey, wait a minute, this is not just something I'm doing as a hobby. I want to make a living out of this?
Not off the bat. You know, I started fighting amateur when I was 11, then I had a little hiatus where I didn't compete until I was 15, and then maybe a couple of years after that, after I started dominating my opponents in amateur, I was, I'm ready to go pro. My coach agreed with it. So 2011, 2010 actually, we said, we're going to go pro, and that was it. We never looked back after that.
Yeah, you did not have a lengthy amateur career, and sometimes that's a good thing, less wear on the body. What did you learn from the amateurs that has helped you out as a pro so far? What's the biggest difference, other than, of course, you get paid as a professional?
I would say the biggest difference is the punches, probably, because, the gloves are a lot smaller, and I'm not a small guy. I fight at 175, so you can definitely feel even the little jabs if you're not defending yourself properly. But an amateur, even though I only had 65 amateur fights, believe it or not, I fought all the top guys that are pros right now. I fought Jay Leon Love. I fought Thomas Fowler from the New England area. He was a top pro. I fought Marcus Brown. I fought Keith Tapia, which is a top 10 cruiserweight. So I fought a lot of guys with a lot of more experience than me at the time when I fought them. But it helped. I kept training, and, I got better and better, and I caught up. So, yeah, even though I didn't have a lot of amateur fights, I definitely fought a lot of guys with good experience. That taught me a lot.
Now, you're a very tall southpaw. Are you a natural southpaw?
Yep, I'm a natural lefty.
Was there any temptation to have you switch to orthodox in your development?
No, not at all. As soon as I learned how to box, I always stood as a lefty.
All right, so I want to talk a little bit about your fighting style. I really enjoy watching you fight. You have, I think, a very unique style. You have what I like to call a herky-jerky jab. You backhand your jab a little bit. It's really effective, but sometimes it looks awkward. It looks hard to throw. That's what I mean by awkward. It looks like you could hurt yourself when doing it. And I think the best part of your game is that you really throw a really straight, strong left hand. A lot of southpaw fighters don't have that darting, straight left hand. Did that come naturally? So talk about both of those punches and how they developed.
For me, being so tall for the weight class at 6'2", that jab I use. We in the gym we call it a flick jab. To keep the person watch something, flick it out. And it also helps me keep my range if I'm backing up. Usually when I'm going backwards and I'm boxing, I'll use that jab. But my straight left hand is something my coach always told me was a dynamite punch that I have. So even now, from an amateur, we always worked on my straight left hand. And we always incorporate into a lot of our combinations, and we always go back to the basics of straight left hand, and he believes it's by knockout punch.
Yes, without a doubt. It's very good, effective, and you throw it well. Now, as a southpaw, have you, especially early on, did you find it hard getting fights with people like, southpaw, I'm going the other way? Was it hard for you to get fights in the beginning?
Yeah, there was a time when I had went pro. I hadn't fought in like a year, and then I'd fight again, then off like another 8 months. It was just hard to find me fights at first, and then once I signed with Murphy's Boxing, they find me fights whenever I'm scheduled to fight. Money talks, so these guys have no choice but to get in the ring at that point once they like a price that they hear. But, yeah, in the beginning it was a little tough to find fights.
Now, you mentioned your height, very tall for the weight class, so that means most of the time you're fighting shorter guys, and on some occasions much shorter opponents. What's it like? When you spar, do you get to spar with guys as tall as you? And if not, how do you compensate? Most of the time you're fighting much shorter guys. Looks like you're used to it, but could be a little bit troublesome from now and then.
Honestly, I'd rather fight guys that was my height or, maybe 6 foot. I find it easier to hit the target. But the guys that are real short, the guy Alvin Ramon fought on Showbox, he was 5'8". He had a lot of side-to-side heading, a lot of bobbing and weaving. He thought he was Mike Tyson. But I find it more difficult to fight shorter people. Believe it or not, my sparring partners I have in the gym, one is 6 foot. He's a super middleweight. And another one is about 6'3". He's a super heavyweight that fights amateur, and he's a really talented guy. So those are the two main guys I spar with, and they're just a little bit shorter than me and about an inch taller than me. So I get good work from both of those guys.
So you're kind of backing up my belief that when you're fighting somebody much shorter, it's a little bit more problematic.
Yeah, for me personally, I find it a little bit not too difficult to where I can't handle it, but I find it the punches don't land as properly as I would like them to.
All right, and now obviously we already mentioned 2018, big year for you, 3 victories. Rare nowadays, unless you're like just starting out, to have more than 2 fights a year. You had 3 big fights a year. You fought a total of 28 rounds, where you didn't lose many rounds at all out of those 28 rounds. Talk a little bit about your big year in 2018. I think you may have lost 2 or 3 rounds tops the whole year.
Oh, yeah. This was my biggest year so far as being a professional. 2018, we started off fighting for the vacant WBA, NABA light heavyweight title. I fought a great game. Justin Thomas had a lot more experience. He was 19-3. I was only 14-0 at the time, and I think I underestimated him a little bit. I tried to knock him out too much in the fight. I kept loading up on my punches. I had good stamina. I threw a lot of punches that fight, but he was there. He was real gritty and tough, and I think he underestimated me a little bit. Then I move on to May. I fought on my birthday on Showtime, and I fought another undefeated fighter, the same record as me, 15-0. I fought Alvin Ramon. I went to Philly as the opponent, the B side, and I came out victorious. He was 5'8". They were deeming him as the next Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson was helping the guy train a little bit for the fight. And I think some judges gave him maybe 3 rounds out of the 8-round total. But I knew going into that fight that we were going to dominate him, and I thought he was way too short to be in the ring with me and, be able to compete at the level that I think of. I think that's my biggest asset is my mental capacity and able to adjust in the ring. I don't fight the same fight every single time. The way I fought Justin Thomas was a real aggressive, high-volume punching. And the way I fought Alvin Ramon when I fought on Showtime, it was real selective and, left uppercut, straight left hand. I boxed more around the ring, so I saw a little bit of versatility in my style. Then my last fight in November, I fought the hard-punching guy from Freddie Roach's gym, Israel Duffus. He was he probably the best puncher I fought so far as a professional. But, me and my coach, we made a good game plan. And I just stuck to it. I listened to everything he said in the corner and came out another 10-round sweep victory. Yeah,
you swept that fight on all 3 cards, 100-90. The Romal fight was interesting because, as you said, you won in there as the B side on the telecast. That fight was on Showbox. Barry Tompkins called it a clear big step up fight for you. It was a fight where I thought you could have only given Rommel 2 rounds. The second round was a clear round for him. The fifth round, he had some good punches towards the very end of the fight, end of the round. I thought that was kind of an even round. Second round was the only clear big round for him. All the other rounds I thought you swept. But that second round was a really big round for him where you got hit with some good, clean shots. Did you get hurt at all with those shots? It looked like you took them well. What was it like? You got hit with some uppercuts and with some hooks.
Yeah, going into that fight with the guy's record, I think he was 15-0 with 12 knockouts at that time. I thought he was going to punch a lot harder than what he did. I mean, he could punch. I'm not taking away from my mental toughness and my physical toughness that I have. But what I was expecting was a bigger puncher. So when I got in, I felt his punches. They weren't as much as I anticipated them to be. But no, even with the shot he called me at the end of the fifth round, which was the best probably shot of the fight, I wasn't hurt at all.
Now, that second round was big for him, but then you came back and you had a really good third and fourth round, made adjustments quickly. Was anything said to you in the corner that helped you adjust? Was there anything that you decided to do yourself? Because it's one of those dynamics in boxing where when a guy has a big round like that, the other guy, unless he's like really good, usually doesn't come back and dominate the next round, and you did. So talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, the first round, I went out using my jab. He probably wanted to see how I would react the first round. And I won that clear. And then the second round, he came out and just pressured a little bit more, and I was, just feeling him out still because I know we had 8 rounds, and he ended up winning that round. But my coach said, don't let him push you around, don't let him pressure you too big, because even my body, I'm still a big light heavyweight, not only because of my size. But my coach was like, don't let him push you around, use angles, and pop your jab and straight left hand, let him have it. Then I just stuck to the game plan. We readjusted. So that's the important part about boxing when you get to this level is that it's not only about your physical traits. You got to be able to think in there and adjust on the fly. And my coach does a good job with, staying on top of me and make sure I'm staying focused.
All righty. So talk a little bit about your team, because even the best talents can be mishandled and it could cost them. Look at Tyson in Tokyo. Talk a little bit about who is behind you, who works you in the corner, and all of that. Give him some props now.
Oh, definitely a big shout out to my team. My trainer, Louis Rosa Sr. We have many fighters in the gym, but this guy, not even supposed to brag or anything, but I believe we have the best gym and coach in the world. We have a bunch of undefeated fighters in the gym. I have my younger brother, William Foster. He's 8-0. We have Jeffrey Torres, another undefeated 140-pounder, 168-pounder that I sparred with. He's 6-0. So, my coach really knows what he's doing, and he's a very insightful guy, and he's a teacher. I don't even like to call him a coach. He's a teacher of the sport. Real old school. He trains us hard. We can't go into any fight being tired, I believe, because the guy works so hard sometimes I don't feel like being there. But my manager is his wife, Marilyn Rosa, like smartest business lady I've ever met. She handles all the contracts and, talks to all the promoters, which I'm promoted by Murphy's Boxing. Big shout out to them. But that woman there, she's the backbone of everything. She makes everything happen, make sure everything runs smoothly and I don't have to worry about anything.
Yeah, there always has to be a strong woman in the picture, I think, for any man to be successful no matter what he does. So I'm glad you said that there. Now, you're from Connecticut. You're a southpaw. You're in the light heavyweight division. A lot of natural comparisons to Chad Dawson. Although Chad wasn't born in Connecticut, he resided there, fought out of Connecticut, southpaw, light heavyweight. How many times have you heard those comparisons to bad Chad Dawson, and what's your thoughts on them?
Only time I ever heard a comparison come out of anyone's mouth was when I fought on Showtime. They said just another tall, light heavyweight southpaw from New Haven. But coming up, Chad was like on top of the boxing scene when I was about 15 or 16. So I used to watch a lot of his videos, so I could try to get better because we have a similar style a little bit. Now that I got older, I developed my own. I believe it changed a lot, but I used to try to emulate him a lot growing up. But yeah, Chad was a really good fighter back in his day about 10 years ago. You know, he was running the light heavyweight division, but, you know, he's a little bit older now. So I guess he opened up a gym, so we'll see what happens and how he turns out.
Now, you mentioned the boxing roots in your family. Talk a little bit about your admiration for some other fighters. Who did you watch growing up? Who were some of the fighters that you're a fan of now?
Before I even started boxing, a big fighter I always used to watch was Oscar De La Hoya, because my dad used to watch all the pay-per-view events. So I used to see a lot of Oscar De La Hoya, a lot of Fernando Vargas, Trinidad, guys like that. Mike Tyson, of course. A little bit of Holyfield I remember, but my favorite fighter of all time probably would be Andre Ward. You know, I just like his mental fortitude he has in the ring and outside the ring, and his beliefs and how clean he stays outside the ring, and the way his mental is. So I would say he's my favorite fighter of all time.
Now, you're in the light heavyweight division. In terms of boxing history, the number of great fighters, the number of great fights, my personal favorite division ever. A lot of history in that division. And since you're coming on our show for the first time, Charles, I always ask this question to all first-time boxers. If you could put yourself in a time capsule, what light heavyweight would you have liked to have challenged from the past? And moving forward in the future, who would be your ideal opponent moving forward?
Opponent I would like to face probably was the light heavyweight version of Michael Moore. That dude was a monster. I believe he almost knocked out every single one of his opponents back then. And,
another southpaw too.
Yeah, yep. And he was the first southpaw heavyweight champion as well. A person I would like to fight in the future, I mean, I don't know. I really don't have no picks. You know, all these guys at the top. Now I have to fight them one day. If I don't want to fight them, or I'm pick and choose them, you know, I'm not here to be, you know, a fighter. But that's my job, is to be a fighter. So I'm not picking and choosing any of the future champions that I'll fight.
Now, what's next for you? The calendar hit 2019 not that long ago. You had 3 big victories in 2018. What's on the horizon?
Actually, today my manager told me that I could have a potential fight in March 16th, either in Springfield or Lowell, Massachusetts. I have no opponent name right now, but, you know, I just got word of that today, so tomorrow, you know, I'll start prepping a little bit, you know, because I'm always in the gym. I'm in the gym every single day. Even after my last fight in November, I went to the gym on Tuesday. My coach was like, get out the gym and go home for a couple of days, like just take a break. But, yeah, so I guess March 16th might be the next date, and, you know, can't wait.
All right, and we can't wait to see you back in action, Charles Foster. Thank you for your time. Now is time for some closing remarks. Any social media, anything else you want to say in closing? Now's the time.
You know, I want to thank Zutes Boxing Talk for having me on the show, you know, doing my first live interview with anybody. On social media, you can find me on Facebook at Charles Foster. Instagram, you can find me at TheTruth_Foster. And just thank you for having me, man. I appreciate you.
Thank you, and we appreciate you and your time. Can't wait to see you fight again. Charles Foster, have a great rest of your evening.
Thank you. You too, man.
All righty. Thanks a lot.
All right.
All righty. So there you have it. Getting back into the ring in March. We want to see what's going on there. And if you look at the light heavyweight picture right now, again, one of those divisions where there's a lot of talent at the top, but I don't think it's going to take much for any young talent like Forster to move up the ladder. I mean, you got Beterbiev, you got Elder Alvarez, right? He's facing Kovalov again, Bivol. You got Gostak, who just upset Stevenson, Badu Jack, Marcus Brown. A lot there, but, you know, I think another productive year, similar to what Charles had this year, and he could find himself in the top 10 easily. Now, obviously, with boxing and boxing history, the trouble with rankings is it's not always based on merit, right? sometimes guys get the top rankings because of promotional influences. So there's that. But I think Charles will keep getting fights. He's a good fighter. He plays well on television. He has some good skills. And, we'll see what the future brings. We thank you for your time. Okay, we'll take a quick break and we'll be back shortly.
What is your understanding of where you stand in the title picture? What happens next for Marvin Hagler?
Right now, I'm leaving it up to my manager and trainer and attorney. Whoever they say I fight, I'll fight. I like to stay busy and stay right on top of my game, fight some of the best contenders that they have out there today, and just to stay sharp for Vito Antiformio. I want him again.
Well, he's got to get by Alan Minner, of course. That's his first title defense after the one against you, and it may be that you'll have one or two more fights. Is that what you're saying before the title shot?
That's right. I'm going to stay busy. Since I had an easy night tonight, I'm going right back in the gym and keep working.
Okay, Marvin, good luck to you. Thanks for being with us. We'll be back here at the Portland Civic Center in Portland, Maine in just a minute.
All righty, we are back live to Zutes Boxing Talk, the boxing show where we bring you sweet science straight up with no twist. And remember, tomorrow night there's a special live Zutes Boxing Talk, 6 p.m. Eastern Time. Teofimo Lopez and Lee Samuels will join us. And on Sunday, I think about 10:30 a.m. Eastern Time, the debut of Zutes Throwback Boxing Show. The question at hand will be, what was the first fight you remember watching on television? And our panel will include Dave Wilcox, Jerry Fitch, and Mr. Jeff Bumpus. Looking forward to that. That should be a lot of fun. A couple of things I wanted to address before we kicked it off. This evening, getting back to the Santa Cruz Flores fight, there's a big quote, and it's coming from the champion, Santa Cruz, shouting on the top of his lungs, so to speak, that he takes every fight serious. He is not looking past Miguel Flores. He never looks past any of his opponents. Well, typically when you have to say something that loud and boisterous, that means you're trying to convince yourself. Now look, I mean, it's only natural for Leo Santa Cruz to be looking past anybody that's not Gary Russell Jr., right? Or one of the other top champions. Gary Russell Jr. means a big payday. And he probably, deep in his heart, based on 2 losses on his record already, probably thinks Miguel Flores is a little below his level, is a guy he should beat. So that makes it interesting. And again, nobody in the hierarchy of boxing wants to see Miguel Flores win. Everybody wants that Santa Cruz Russell Jr. fight. And if Santa Cruz wins, that doesn't necessarily mean we're going to get that fight. This is boxing, right? There's no guarantee. There's not even a hint of a guarantee that Santa Cruz and Russell are going to fight each other. But Flores, he's right. Flores should not be taken lightly. Flores is going to come to fight, and if Flores wins, it's one of those great stories. So we'll be looking forward to that fight. Another fight that seems like it's official, although when it comes to Amir Khan, you never know. right? How many big fights was Amir Khan rumored to be having and never has? And of course, the way things go, the one fight you didn't want to see him get was the Canelo fight. That's the one big fight that you really didn't care about, and that's the one you actually got. But Terence Crawford is rumored to be fighting Amir Khan. People that I've talked to said they're pretty confident that's going to go down, possibly in Madison Square Garden. Obviously, there's still talks of Khan and Kell Brook. But I would embrace a Terence Crawford Amir Khan fight. I think that's a good fight. I think Amir Khan is a live dog in that fight. And Crawford is one of the best fighters in the world. Don't get me wrong. Arguably the top pound-for-pound fighter right now. But styles make fights, right? I hate cliches, but that's a cliche that's true. And I think if Khan's chin can hold up, that's always the question. He has a style that could give a Terence Crawford problems. At the very worst, I think we'll get a competitive fight. So I'm looking forward to that. It's not the top fight on my wish list. Obviously, I would rather see Crawford fight Errol Spence, but obviously that's not going to happen. But Crawford and Khan, I'm with it. Hopefully it's not a big pay-per-view. I don't think it's a pay-per-view fight. And West Top Rank now with the app and ESPN and all that, it probably, hopefully, I mean, I don't know, who knows. I remember at one point Bob Arum wanted to have Terence Crawford as an exclusive pay-per-view fighter, but that kind of changed once they made the deal with ESPN. And I would much rather see Terence Crawford Khan than Terence Crawford Jesse Vargas. As much as I like Jesse Vargas, I don't want to see that fight. My top choice, if it's not Spence, would be Edges, the Mean Machine, who is the number one contender in the WBO. But it looks like Khan is going to be the guy, and he's ranked number 4 in the WBO. I like it. And I hope it's in Madison Square Garden so I could go see it. Alrighty, so that's it for this evening. Special thanks to Miguel Flores. It's always great when a fighter comes and gives us time when he's so close to fight time. And, of course, Charles Foster. And you heard him say this is his first live interview, and I'm glad that I'm the one to have to do it. Thank you again. Remember to go to thegruelingtruth.net, topclassboxing.co.uk, and ringnews24.com. You could also subscribe to Zutes Boxing Talk on iTunes. Go to iTunes, look for Anthony George Radio, subscribe, and you can get all the episodes in the archives. And go to blogtalkradio.com and become a follower of the show. And I'm trying to amp up my Facebook page, Zutes Boxing Talk. So if you like the show, look for Zutes Boxing Talk on Facebook as well. All right, everybody, until tomorrow night, keep on punching and always hit them with the high.